Okay.
I'm sorry, I just got in again. ¿Me escuchan?
Sí, muy bien.
Bien, pues si gustan iniciamos.
Tú dices.
Okay, let's start. Bueno, buenas tardes tengan todos ustedes. Sean bienvenidos a este webinar que organizamos en colaboración con nuestro socio, el puerto de Brownsville. Mi nombre es Héctor Villarreal Muraira, yo estoy como director general de COMCE Noreste, Consejo Mexicano de Comercio Exterior del Noreste. Y bien, pues el tema que tenemos el día de hoy es platicar sobre el Plan Maestro de Transporte Fronterizo Texas, México, donde tendremos la participación de Mrs. Caroline Mays, directora de Transporte, Comercio y Conectividad del Texas DOT o Departamento de Transporte de Texas, y de Giacomo Giaquinto, él es coordinador de Comercio Internacional Fronterizo, Transporte de Carga y Conectividad, también del Departamento de Transporte de Texas, así como de Guillermo Rico, quien es gerente de ventas del puerto de Brownsville. El objetivo del webinar pues es conocer los alcances y los proyectos del Plan Maestro de Transporte Fronterizo Texas, México, elaborado por el Departamento de Transporte de Texas en coordinación y participación de la Secretaría de Comunicaciones y Transportes, la SCT, los estados que participan en la frontera con Texas, municipios, organismos empresariales, entre los que estuvimos como COMCE Noreste, y usuarios de la infraestructura de movilidad en la frontera Texas-México. Como se anunció en la invitación, la intervención de Caroline y de Giacomo serán en inglés y la presentación se estará pasando en español. Posteriormente, Guillermo Rico hará su presentación en español. Bien, pues cualquier pregunta, cualquier comentario pueden hacerlo a través del chat o mediante la sección de preguntas y respuestas. Y estaremos teniendo un espacio al final para poder atender pues lo que nos vayan ustedes preguntando. Antes de iniciar y de presentar a nuestros panelistas, quisiéramos presentarles un video del puerto de Brownsville. Que creemos que es muy interesante. Adelante.
Welcome to the Port of Brownsville, known around the world as the port that works. My name is Eduardo A. Campirano. I'm the Port Director and CEO, and I am your host for today. The Port of Brownsville opened in May of 1936 and is the largest land-owning public port authority in the United States with approximately 40,000 acres. The port is the only deepwater seaport located directly on the U.S.-Mexico border, offering unrivaled access to markets on both sides of the border. Most importantly, we are the closest deepwater port serving Mexico's industrial centers in Monterrey, a prime manufacturing base for automaking, consumer electronics, and home appliances. The Port of Brownsville is a versatile marine terminal operation, supporting businesses dependent upon a wide range of cargoes. Refined petroleum products, bulk steel materials like slab and cold and hot roll steel coils, ore, scrap steel, sand, sugar, cement, windmill components, and limestone are some of the many commodities handled here. And an emerging container on barge service between Brownsville and Tampa, Florida, provides efficient connections with the East and Midwest United States via the I-95 and the I-75 corridors. The port's facilities include 1 million plus square feet of covered storage, 3 million plus square feet of open storage, 6 liquid cargo docks, along with 13 general cargo docks, providing a safe, secure, and environmentally responsible location for international trade is a top priority. The Port of Brownsville offers and supports multiple modes of transportation, including ocean-going vessels, all major U.S. and Mexican truck lines, rail service throughout all of North America with a focus on Mexico, barge service, and pipeline access to U.S. and Mexican terminals. The Brownsville Ship Channel is being deepened from a depth of 42 feet to 52 feet, which will support a broader range of cargo ships and aligns with the recent expansion of the Panama Canal, allowing bigger ships to call on the port. When complete, the port will become one of the deepest ports on the Gulf of Mexico and will be able to accommodate deeper draft cargo vessels carrying heavier loads. Another example of our commitment to shippers is a process pioneered at the Port of Brownsville that allows trucks to load to the legal weight limits of Mexico while entering or leaving the port along an overweight corridor. Trucks may utilize the corridor weighing up to 125,000 pounds, 45,000 pounds heavier than domestic loads, while saving time and money by eliminating costly double handling. The Port of Brownsville is committed to working with the regional community to drive growth and economic prosperity. A 2019 economic impact study found that activity generated by the Port of Brownsville results in $3 billion in annual economic impact and produces $201 million in yearly tax revenues, supporting more than 51,000 jobs across the state, including 8,500 in the Rio Grande Valley. Many of those jobs are found at Keppel AmFels, the port's leading employer. Keppel has recently reintroduced shipbuilding to the state of Texas and is currently building 2 774-foot-long U.S. flag container ships expected to be delivered by mid-2021. The Port of Brownsville, we are grateful for the progress we've made and the economic leadership we've achieved for the Rio Grande Valley and the state of Texas. We are proud of the reputation we have built as the port that works with businesses, shippers in our hometown, Brownsville, Texas. We are proud to be the port that works for everyone.
Bien, pues muchas gracias, Guillermo. Bien, pues a continuación me permito leer una breve semblanza de nuestros panelistas y procedo a darles la palabra. Bien, pues es un gusto recibir a Mrs. Caroline Mays. Ella se unió al Departamento de Transporte de Texas, el Texas DOT, a finales de 2012 y ha tenido varias responsabilidades a su cargo, que incluyen coordinadora de transporte, gerente de la División de Planeación de Transporte, directora de Transporte y de la Sección Internacional de Comercio Fronterizo y actualmente con el cargo de directora de Transporte, Comercio y Conectividad. A Caroline se le encargó el desarrollo y la administración del programa de planeación de transporte multimodal del Departamento de Transporte de Texas, el programa de planeación de comercio internacional y fronterizo y el programa de planeación del corredor interestatal. Ella es responsable de supervisar el Comité Asesor de Transporte de Texas y el Comité Asesor de Comercio Fronterizo, y ha sido clave en el desarrollo del Plan de Movilidad de Transporte Multimodal del Estado de Texas. Ella ha liderado el desarrollo y la implementación del Plan Maestro de Transporte Fronterizo Texas-México, el cual estaremos revisando el día de hoy, y que fue adoptado en marzo de 2021 por la Comisión de Transporte de Texas, que incluyó múltiples estudios y análisis a lo largo del estado. Mrs. Caroline Mays es miembro de la Asociación Americana de Planeación y del Instituto Americano de Planeadores Certificados. Colabora como vicepresidente del Comité Especial de la Asociación Americana de Autopistas Estatales y Transporte y colabora con el Comité Técnico de Transporte de la Asociación Mundial de Carreteras. Tiene una licenciatura en Planeación Urbana y Regional por la Universidad de Waterloo, en Canadá, y una maestría en Ciencias en Planeación por la Universidad de Toronto, Canadá. Mrs. Caroline Mays, you're very welcome this afternoon.
Yep. Thank you very much, Hector, for the introduction, and Guillermo, thank you both for the invitation to speak today and share the recently completed Texas-Mexico Border Transportation Master Plan. And we do have a PowerPoint presentation. Giacomo, you're running it?
Okay, I can
Yes, let me pull that up.
read Mr. Giacomo bio
Okay.
also, please. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Bien, también les presento a Giacomo Giaquinto. Él es coordinador de Comercio Internacional Fronterizo, Transporte de Carga y Conectividad del Departamento de Transporte de Texas. Él se unió al Departamento de Transporte de Texas en mayo de 2019. Trabaja muy de cerca con el administrador de Comercio Internacional y Planeación Fronteriza, con la directora de Transporte, Comercio y Conectividad, con los distritos fronterizos y con otras divisiones del Departamento de Transporte de Texas, con quienes colabora en Comercio Internacional y Planeación Fronteriza. Giacomo apoya también en las reuniones del Comité Asesor de Comercio Fronterizo. Como gerente de proyectos del Plan Maestro de Transporte Fronterizo Texas-México, Giacomo colaboró con diferentes actores binacionales a lo largo de las 1,254 millas o 2,000 kilómetros de la región fronteriza que tiene Texas para identificar políticas, programas y proyectos para mejorar el movimiento de personas y bienes a lo largo de la frontera, tanto en la actualidad como en el futuro. Giacomo es miembro de la Asociación Americana de Planeadores y del Instituto Americano de Planeadores Certificados. Well, thank you, Giacomo, for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, okay, Ms. Caroline, the microphone is yours, please.
Yep, thank you very much, Hector. Appreciate that. As Giacomo pulls the presentation, I want to again thank you, Hector and Guillermo, for inviting us to present on the Texas-Mexico Border Master Plan that was recently completed. This was a very extensive undertaking at a binational level where we engaged, both in the U.S. and Mexico. So we're really excited to share that with you today. You see what the plan entails. So Giacomo, next slide. As I mentioned, this is a comprehensive plan that looks at the movement of people and goods through the Texas-Mexico border. And as you can see here, there are three main points. The plan identifies not just current issues, but also future issues and challenges. And then it outlines policy, program, and project recommendations to address those needs. And really the main goal is to facilitate the efficient movement of people and goods throughout the Texas-Mexico border. The plan has 9 key goals. And the goals outlined here, range from economic competitiveness to safety, mobility, and even looking at customer service. So those are kind of the 3 key plan plan goals, but I wanted to highlight. Next slide, Giacomo. So I mentioned that the plan really included a very extensive stakeholder outreach, and this slide just shows you kind of the multi-pronged approach we took to engage stakeholders throughout Texas and Mexico. In Texas, it was led by the Border Trade Advisory Committee, but also we coordinated with 2 U.S.-Mexico, binational working group, BBXG, the U.S.-Mexico binational, bridges and border working group, and then also the Joint Working Committee on Transportation Planning. We did extensive outreach, and you can see from the numbers here, I won't read through that, but I think what was very instrumental was we created 3 binational regional steering committees, one covering the Laredo region, the other one covering Rio Grande Valley region, and the other one covering El Paso. And as you can see here, we held several meetings of that group. And then we also, did more than 10 stakeholder workshops, as well as interviewing numerous stakeholders. Next slide, Giacomo. And here you would like to use this slide because sometimes people think the border matters to only the folks that live around the border region. So this slide we use, this is all the folks that participated both in the US, as you can see, goes actually as, beyond Texas all the way to California, Midwest, but also all the way to the Northeast and to Florida, and then Mexico goes all the way to the southern parts of Mexico, just to show you how border really touches everybody within the US and Mexico, as well as Canada. Next slide. And here I want to touch on just a few things. Why does the border matters? That was a question people had asked us even before we did the plan, but also throughout the plan development. One, Texas and Mexico share 64% of US-Mexico border land. So that's 1,200 plus 1,200 miles out of the 1,900. And really the border region, this is Texas and Mexico, in terms of population and employment, grew at a very staggering rate, actually outpaced both US and Mexico, growth rates at the national level. Trade has tripled since pretty much NAFTA was enacted in 1994 to 2019. You've seen the increase from just a little bit over 173 billion to over $615 billion in trade, just US and Mexico, and 68% of that passes through the Texas-Mexico border. So a staggering amount, really, when you look at what's coming through our borders and why the border really matters to both the US and Mexico. Next slide. And this slide, we want to show, the comprehensive nature of the transportation network and system that moves people and goods. We have 28 border crossings between Texas and Mexico. We have 6 freight rail crossings. One of them is inactive right now. But seaports, we also, Mexico and Texas have 21 seaports. And you heard, Port of Brownsville, which is really, we call it the border seaport, that really connects and facilitates a lot of trade between Texas and Mexico. And we have a network of airports, foreign trade zones, and highway corridors that really facilitate the movement of people and goods across our shared border. Next slide. And another thing we looked at during the plan development was the economic importance of the Texas and Mexico border. And we did look at 2 components, the movement of people. And as you can see here, the movement of people alone generates over $9.3 billion in GDP. That was just 2019. And when you fast forward by 2030, that is forecast to grow from 9.3 billion to 12.3 billion in 2050. So again, that's just a movement of people. Next slide. When you look at the movement, of goods, that number is fairly staggering. I talked about 9.3 billion to move people. Now we're talking about $343 billion, in GDP, for goods movement on the US-Mexico border. And then that is forecasted to grow to $1.16 trillion in GDP by 2050. And that's, again, very staggering. And what we found throughout the plan development, that the emphasis on the goods movement, was very significant. And it's going to continue to be much more significant, especially with the signing of the new USMCA. Next slide. And when you look at the border is not just about moving people and goods. The border, people live in the border. The people that call the border home, they live, work there, they've lived there for generations. So we looked at some of the socioeconomic, indicators, and the main one is population. I mentioned already that the border region grew, is home, in 1990, it was home to 4.3 million people. And by 2019, that almost doubled to 7.4 million. And we're forecasting that to grow by at least 19%. And by 2050, 8.8 million people or more will be calling the border region between Texas and Mexico home. On the employment side, the border region also is a significant employment area, generating a lot of employment for the folks that live in the border regions. As you can see here, the numbers are staggering. With 1.2 million in 2019, and that is projected to grow to 2 million by 2050. In terms of income, again, that's a big indicator of economic activity in the region. So as you can see here, on both the Texas and the Mexican side, incomes and wages have continued to grow, and we project that that will continue to grow into the future as well. Next slide. And the next thing we looked at, how do you understand past, present, and future? And we looked at the movement of people. And here, what we looked at is the movement of people by buses, movement of people by walking or walking or biking, and then the movement of people by personal vehicles. And as you can see here, the U.S.-Mexico, border, you have 33 million cars, 20 million bicyclists, and over 90,000 passengers. But in the Texas side, you look and you see that has kind of declined when you take all of the people movement, declined by 36.9% between 1996 and 2019. But still, we'll see some growth moving forward in the numbers of people crossing. Next slide. And here, as you can see, I mentioned earlier that you've seen the movement of people declining. Buses going down, has been going down a little bit, and then we're looking at seeing that going down. And some of that might be, significantly impacted by COVID, people not wanting to share or be in a crowded vehicle. But bicyclists and pedestrians, interestingly so, they've been increasing because people are foregoing taking a bus or being in a car because of either border wait times or other things. They're choosing to walk or bike across the border. And on the passenger vehicles or the private owned vehicles, we saw some decline, but we're projecting that we'll see some uptick moving forward because it's still, again, I mentioned the border folks, people live and have homes and lives in the border region. So you're going to see that movement continue. Next slide. On the goods movement side, the trends are a little bit staggering, and it's really showing, the significance of the border when it comes to economic activity, and that's the movement of goods. And here we're looking at truck movement, and a few numbers I want to emphasize here. In 1996, between 1996 and 2019, we saw, 112% growth in truck crossings. And what we're projecting is it's again staggering, whereby we're projecting that that number will increase to 7.7 million from 2.4 million, with a 168% increase. And again, a lot of you see and live this every day, so these numbers might not be surprising to you, but I think for us it was a very big eye opener on the difference between the movement of people and the movement of goods across the border. Next slide. And this is looking at the rail cars. So again, this is freight rail. So again, if you look at it, it's significant growth expected here, but not as much as on the highway or the truck side, but still freight rail plays a significant role of moving goods through the Texas-Mexico border. And we see the railroads making investments. There are plans to add, crossing in Laredo, and we're hoping to open up the Presidio rail crossing to increase rail capacity within the cross-border environment. Next slide. And one of the other things we did look at is, I mentioned earlier, the border matters not just to the border region or to Texas and Mexico. The border matters to the entire United States. And what we did here, we looked at what states in Texas, in the US, and what states in Mexico benefit tremendously from trade that crosses through Texas and Mexico border. In the US, you can see, of course, Texas will lead, but you see states as far as Michigan, you see California, you see Ohio being kind of the top states that really benefit from the percentage of the GDP that comes from trade that crosses through the Texas-Mexico border. On the Mexican side, you can see, the top, states here, of course, Nuevo being one of them, but you see, as far as Mexico City and others that really benefit from the trade that goes through the Texas-Mexico border. Next slide. And here I will turn the presentation over to Giacomo that will walk you through the next set of slides and the next set of discussions for the presentation. Thank you. Giacomo?
Thanks, Caroline. So the BTMP identified several cross-cutting issues and needs, and I'll highlight a couple of them. Texas-Mexico coordination, collaboration, and cooperation. Border planning, management, and operations require the participation of and coordination of more than 50 Texas-Mexico federal, state, local, and private partners. One that's become especially significant is system disruption and resiliency. The border crossings and multimodal transportation infrastructure are susceptible to unforeseen and disruptive events and require enhanced network redundancy and resiliency planning. Additional cross-cutting issues and needs include integration of new technologies, data collection, sharing harmonization and analysis, funding and financing, stakeholder participation, and environment and community impacts. Each of these topics correlate to the key system performance issues and needs identified on the right. Border delays are the top cited issue for stakeholders for both personal and commercial vehicles. The information shown in the slide is based on a do-nothing scenario, meaning the forecasted crossing times correspond to no improvements being made and could change if improvements are made between now and 2050. Border crossing volumes for commercial vehicles are forecast to increase significantly between now and 2050, with transportation demand surpassing capacity. If no operational efficiency and system capacity improvements are made, delays are forecast to grow exponentially. The almost tripling of commercial movements by 2050 will strain the border processing capabilities at border crossings. Commercial crossing times, both average and 90th percentile, are forecast to increase dramatically by 2050. For many of the larger crossings, the average crossing times will be 3 to 9 hours in 2050. As travel demand increases at a rate greater than capacity does, roadway congestion will escalate quickly. Vehicle delay is expected to increase substantially. By 2050, congestion is forecast to be a major issue across the multimodal corridor network as many roadways become congested. The forecasted future system performance for mobility and reliability indicators highlights the need for future improvements. In contrast to the commercial growth highlighted on the previous slide, personal vehicle or POV growth to 2050 is forecast to be more moderate, which leads to less escalation in crossing times. 3 of the small crossings are forecast to experience no increase in future crossing times. However, crossing times at the majority of the border crossings are forecast to increase dramatically, with the highest reaching 8 hours. And this slide contains some additional POV border crossings and their average border crossing times in hours for both 2019 and 2050, as well as the annual border crossings or number of POVs. In 2019, border delays resulted in $68.3 million in economic productivity losses, reducing GDP by $2.3 billion in both countries. If no improvements are made, border delays may result in an economic productivity loss of $4.4 billion in 2050, reducing GDP by $116 billion in both countries. If nothing is done between now and 2050, the negative impact of Texas-Mexico border delays on GDP could grow by a factor of more than 50. The BTMP includes 22 policy recommendations that require partnership with federal, state, regional, and local governments and the private sector in both countries for their implementation. These policies are linked to needs and divided into system-wide, border crossing, and corridor-related policies. Border crossing-related policies target ports of entry and supporting facilities. Corridor-related policies target highway, rail, and other multimodal facilities that provide a regional benefit or a last-mile connection to a port of entry. As such, these policies target both sides of the border to provide opportunities for more efficient movement of people and goods in the border region. The BTMP recommends 153 total programs. 52 are related to border crossings, 36 to corridors, and 65 are system-wide. And I just want to do an audio check. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
just going
Yep.
in and out, yeah.
Okay, I'll keep going. All right, these programs support policy recommendations and help address the needs of the Texas-Mexico border region at multiple locations. Each program is linked to a goal and policy solution. For example, to help address delays, the BTMP recommends expanding the existing Border Crossing Information System, BCIS, for northbound and southbound movements to all border crossings along the Texas-Mexico border. The BCIS will enable agencies to collect and share real-time and archived border crossing times and crossing delay information. To address rail congestion, the BTMP recommends working with the federal government to develop a comprehensive strategy and action plan to expand cross-border unified cargo processing, UCP, at intermodal rail facilities along the border. This program will reduce congestion by allowing US and Mexican customs officers to jointly inspect rail cargo, streamlining processing. As a final example, to address connectivity issues, the BTMP recommends regional connectivity studies from border crossings to Texas and Mexico seaports to address issues and challenges and identify strategies to address them. Improvements in east-west connectivity would support the increasing amount of freight connecting with seaports. The 661 Texas and US and Mexico project recommendations address the top issues and needs for the cross-border movement of people and goods by all modes. These needs include mobility and reliability, connectivity, asset preservation, safety, and multimodal projects. Of the 661 projects, 314 are classified in the high impact tier, 311 are classified in the medium impact tier, and 36 are classified in the low impact tier. Along the Texas-Mexico border, there are 193 border crossing projects totaling $6 billion and 468 corridor projects totaling $31.4 billion in estimated costs. Border crossing related projects are defined as improvements at ports of entry and supporting facilities and include projects such as new border crossings, improvements to existing crossings, and border expansion projects. Corridor related projects include highway, rail, and other multimodal facilities that provide a regional benefit or a last mile connection to a port of entry. Of the total 661 projects, 559 are located in Texas and the US, and 102 projects are located in Mexico. Of the total cost of $37.4 billion, $32.7 billion corresponds to Texas and US projects, while $4.7 billion corresponds to projects in Mexico. In Texas and the US, there are 181 short-term projects with an estimated cost of $7.5 billion, 180 medium-term projects with an estimated cost of $8 billion, and 198 long-term projects with an estimated cost of $17.2 billion. In Mexico, there are 29 short-term projects with an estimated cost of $2.7 billion, 16 medium-term projects with an estimated cost of $0.4 billion, and there are 57 long-term projects with an estimated cost of $1.7 billion. So we did look at what might happen if projects are implemented. Fully implementing all the border crossing projects identified in the BTMP would reduce future northbound crossing times compared to the do-nothing scenario presented earlier. These reductions in northbound crossing times would reduce delays and therefore impact the future cost of missed opportunities to the economies of Texas, the US, and Mexico. The BTMP defined two alternative future scenarios for the implementation of project recommendations. The first scenario corresponds to the implementation of projects at existing border crossings. The second scenario corresponds to the implementation of projects at existing border crossings plus the construction of new border crossings. The BTMP produced a high-level estimation of the impacts that these implementation scenarios would have on 2050 northbound crossing times and quantified the corresponding cost of missed opportunities for the economies of Texas, the US, and Mexico compared to a do-nothing scenario. The results presented in this slide correspond to the implementation of projects at existing border crossings. The breakdown of the reduction of northbound crossing times by movement type is the following. Personal vehicles, or POVs, go from 122.8 million hours under the do-nothing scenario to 65.7 million hours. Commercial vehicles, or CMVs, go from 106.9 million hours under the do-nothing scenario to 58.4 million hours. The breakdown of the additional economic impacts by movement type is the following. POVs see almost $1.5 billion of GDP, 37,000 jobs, and $0.8 billion in labor income savings. CMVs see almost $32.1 billion of GDP, 1.48 million jobs, and $19.8 billion in labor income. The results presented in this slide correspond to the implementation of projects at existing crossings plus the construction of new border crossings. The breakdown of the reduction of northbound crossing times by movement types is the following. For personal vehicles, POVs, we see crossing times drop from 122.8 million hours under the do-nothing scenario to 46.9 million hours. And for commercial vehicles, crossing times drop from 106.9 million hours under the do-nothing scenario to 44.4 million hours. The breakdown of the additional economic impacts by movement type is POVs see $2 billion of GDP, 49,000 jobs, and $1.1 billion in labor income. And commercial vehicles, or CMVs, see $47.1 billion in GDP, 1.95 million jobs, and $29.4 billion in labor income. Overall, the improvements associated with both implementation scenarios contribute to a reduction in border crossing times and a reduction in the cost of missed opportunities for the economies of Texas, the US, and Mexico. TxDOT will continue to convene the Border Trade Advisory Committee, in addition to engaging other stakeholders during the Texas-Mexico Border Transportation Master Plan implementation. Texas-Mexico stakeholders have already started to pivot from a planning to an implementation mindset. However, a successful implementation will require sustained commitment, collaboration, and enhanced focus on the details of making border transportation infrastructure more efficient, seamless, safe, and resilient. Federal, state, regional, local, and private partners in the US and Mexico have an unprecedented opportunity to build the future jointly, fulfilling the vision of the BTMP and improving connectivity and community across the 1,254 miles of border that we share. So with that, I'll say thank you and turn the meeting back over to the hosts.
Bien, pues muchas gracias a Caroline y a Giacomo. Es realmente un gusto ver que hay cosas buenas que están sucediendo dentro de todo el contexto que estamos viviendo. Ver que hay personas y que hay programas que están viendo para los próximos 10, 15, 30 años, ¿no? Es impresionante el ritmo de crecimiento de lo que es el comercio exterior y el cruce de mercancías que hay por la frontera, de personas y de mercancías. Y pues ver los números que se esperan para 2050, que si no se hiciera nada y no se estuviera planeando desde ahorita, pues se generaría un caos tremendo, ¿no? Ver ahorita en la gráfica cómo por el puente de Far, McAllen Far, pudieran tardar 13 horas cada uno de los camiones o de los trailers en cruzar, pues es impensable. Entonces, con todo este plan lo que se pretende pues es darle agilidad a toda este cruce de personas y de bienes. Bueno, me permito ahora presentar también. Well, thank you, Caroline, and thank you, Giacomo, for your presentations. Now let me introduce Guillermo Rico for his presentation. Guillermo Rico Leal, él es gerente de ventas del puerto de Brownsville, es ingeniero químico administrador del TEC de Monterrey, tiene una maestría en administración de la Facultad de Ciencias Químicas de la Universidad Autónoma de Nuevo León, Guillermo, Memo se unió al puerto de Brownsville en 2017 como gerente de ventas. Es responsable de la promoción y ventas de los servicios marítimos y de desarrollo industrial del puerto. Tiene más de 40 años de experiencia en la industria, en proyectos de transporte y desarrollo urbano, así como en la promoción, ventas y desarrollo económico. Tiene más de 20 años de experiencia en la industria química y textil, 10 años de experiencia en desarrollo económico y de proyectos urbanos internacionales, además de 10 años de experiencia en manejo de proyectos de bienes y raíces. Pues, Memo, adelante, te cedo la palabra. Gracias.
Muy buenas tardes. Gracias, Héctor. Como dice Héctor, mi nombre es Guillermo Rico Leal. Soy gerente de ventas del puerto de Brownsville. Muchas gracias por su participación a todos en este webinar, el Plan Maestro de Transporte Fronterizo Texas, México, organizado por COMCE del Noreste, los aliados de la logística y comercio internacional de la industria mexicana. En el puerto de Brownsville trabajamos para México. Apoyamos la competitividad de la logística de los sectores industriales y de energía. En el puerto estamos de fiesta actualmente, celebramos 85 años de su fundación. Después de que nuestros amigos del Departamento de Transporte de Texas nos han platicado sobre el plan maestro, ahora yo les voy a compartir una breve presentación sobre la participación del puerto en la elaboración de dicho plan. Quisiera empezar dando una pequeña descripción de los servicios e infraestructura del puerto. El puerto de Brownsville cuenta con más de 16,000 hectáreas. El Brownsville Navigation District, que es dentro de donde está el puerto de Brownsville, es la autoridad puertaria con más terrenos en los Estados Unidos. Es el único puerto con aguas profundas en la frontera México-Estados Unidos. Es una importante y creciente presencia en los sectores de energía y de carga a granel. Hogar del principal fabricante de barcos en Texas. Y por aquí van a ver, está SpaceX, que ahora está lanzando y haciendo pruebas para mandar algunos vehículos al espacio y que usan el puerto de Brownsville también para traer algunos de sus partes. Las características del puerto tienen terrenos disponibles a las orillas del canal. Estamos dentro de una zona de oportunidad. El canal tiene un calado de 13.4 metros a la entrada. Tiene 12.8 hasta la dársena de maniobra por todo el canal. Tiene 11.1 metros de dársena en la dársena de maniobra donde dan vuelta los barcos. Y se tiene autorizada ahí un proyecto para aumentar el calado hasta 15.8. Después platicaremos un poquito más. Se tienen 13 terminales para carga general, 6 terminales para cargas líquidas, una terminal de granos. En almacenaje se tienen más de 1 millón de pies cuadrados de bodegas cubiertas y más de 3 millones de pies cuadrados de almacenaje en espacio abierto. La conectividad que tiene con las autopistas I-69E, I-69C, con la I-2, con la autopista 550, que también es la I-169. En cuanto al ferrocarril, estamos conectados con Union Pacific, BNSF, Kansas City de México y la línea local que es BRG Omnitrack. Tenemos un canal de navegación intracostero del Golfo con el cual nos conectamos a través de barcazas. A través de ese canal pueden ir y están viniendo barcazas desde Pittsburgh, desde muchas partes de los Estados Unidos y hacia el este, hacia Florida. Es una alternativa de transporte y además tenemos gasoductos y oleoductos que van hacia México. Los productos que se manejan, pues productos de metal, como ahí los verán, carga de granel, carga de contenedores, carga líquida, carga seca y carga para proyectos. La conectividad del puerto, pues como lo ven, Estamos conectados en Sudamérica con Brasil y Venezuela, en Europa con todos estos productos, acero, diésel, componentes eólicos, cemento, aluminio. En África tenemos azúcar, minerales, arenas. De Indonesia llega látex, llega cera. ¿Sí? En Austria hay productos que se traen de acero y arenas. De China se manda y se trae varita, componentes eólicos, sal. Y de Rusia, acero y sal. Esas serían algunas de las conectividad que tenemos en el mundo. En cuanto a la operación del puerto, en el 2020 se movieron 11.6 millones de toneladas. ¿Sí? Lo interesante es que fue un número muy similar al del 2019. Sin embargo, los ingresos en ese año aumentaron en un 60%. Y para dar un contexto de lo que estamos platicando ahorita en este plan, el tráfico de ferrocarril aquí en el puerto fueron 51,115 movimientos de ferrocarril, un aumento de un 24% comparado al 2019, y esperamos que esto va a seguir creciendo en el 2021 y en el 2022. El tráfico de camiones, estamos ahorita en más de 1,500 camiones diarios. Nuestra participación dentro del Plan Maestro de Transporte Fronterizo, elaborado por el Departamento de Transporte de Texas, el puerto de Brownsville está convencido que para mejorar la competitividad es indispensable la mejora continua de la infraestructura. Tuvo una participación muy activa y proactiva en la elaboración del plan de transporte. Participó en distintos comités y en más del 90% de las distintas reuniones de planeación. Aportó información, ideas al plan para el desarrollo de la infraestructura del transporte internacional y multimodal. Están contemplados 10 proyectos de infraestructura del puerto en el plan y estamos comprometidos en la implementación y en el seguimiento a este plan. Los proyectos más importantes es las mejoras al canal de navegación, que como ahorita lo mencioné, el proyecto es aumentar el calado a 15.8 metros con una inversión de $300 millones. Se está buscando obtener, se están trabajando ya en la obtención de fondos mediante inversión público y privada. El otro proyecto importante es el conector sur del puerto del Brownsville. Este conector va a conectar, va a tener una salida del puerto de los camiones hacia la carretera 4 o la carretera Boca Chica, que es la que lleva hacia SpaceX, y hacia el otro lado lleva al puente internacional Zaragoza o Los Tomates, que este conector va a ser parte de un proyecto que se está trabajando con el Condado de Cameron, con la Autoridad de Movilidad, que se llama el Loop Este. ¿Sí? Este libramiento va a conectarse desde la salida esta hasta el puente internacional Zaragoza Los Tomates, y va a ser un corredor también de sobrepeso, en donde podrán transitar camiones con el peso autorizado en México. El puro conector ya está programado para que se termine en el tercer trimestre de este año. Va muy adelantado y, como les decía, es una ruta directa del puerto hacia el puente Los Tomates. La siguiente. Disculpen. Otros proyectos que el puerto está trabajando son proyectos, por ejemplo, el de la mejora de la carretera 550, que conecta al puerto con la autopista 69E. Esta carretera, la FM 550, entra por la entrada norte del puerto, viene de la carretera I-69, que es la que conecta a Corpus, Houston, San Antonio, ¿sí? También hay dos proyectos para la construcción del libramiento este, en lo que les llamaba, lo que les ahorita les platicaba, el East Loop, que conectará al puente internacional Zaragoza-Los Tomates. Está un ducto, el ducto se llama Río Bravo Pipeline. Este ducto traerá gas natural de Agua Dulce. Es una región cerca de Corpus Christi, al puerto de Brownsville. Este ducto está programado para el proyecto de la planta de gas natural líquido para licuar gas natural de la empresa NextDecade, que se llama Río Bravo LNG, ¿sí? También se tiene contemplado ampliar la carretera 48 a 6 carriles en el área de puerto en el área del puerto hasta conectar con la carretera 511. La construcción de un puente vehicular, ¿sí?, en la carretera 48 para la entrada precisamente una vez que ya esté en construcción la planta de Río Grande LNG, ¿sí?, que es de NextDecade. También la construcción de carriles y rampas en la carretera 48 en la entrada y salida de los muelles del barco pesquero, de los barcos pesqueros. Aquí tenemos un área que es de los barcos que usan sobre todo los que pescan el camarón. Y finalmente la construcción de carriles laterales y rampa en la carretera 48. Esta carretera 48 es la que va de Brownsville a la Isla del Padre, que es la que nos trae al puerto. Esta rampa será en la entrada en el cruce con la carretera FM 511. Esos serían los proyectos que están contemplados de este plan y que el puerto ha trabajado con ellos. Y como les decía, aquí pueden ver al puerto en 1938 y con todas las inversiones de infraestructura, este es el puerto actualmente o casi actualmente al año 2020. Bueno, pues finalmente les agradezco. Caroline and Giacomo, thank you to share with us the content of very important and visionary plan to improve the competitiveness of the international trade between Mexico and United States. Muchas gracias, Héctor, y a tu equipo de COMCE por la organización de este webinar. Y mil gracias a todos los participantes. Espero que esta información les ayude a planear el futuro de su logística internacional por la frontera de México y Estados Unidos. Pues
muchas gracias.
Con esto.
Y muchas gracias, Memo.
Presentación.
Gracias, perdón. Antes de dar unos minutos para algunas preguntas y respuestas, si tienen a bien por ahí hacernos algunas preguntas, puede ser a través del chat o en la sección ahí de preguntas y respuestas. Comentarles también que las presentaciones se les van a hacer llegar tanto en inglés como en español a sus correos. Y si me permiten, before we have some minutes for some questions and Q&As, questions and answers, Caroline and Giacomo, I want to thank you for all your hard work in the Texas-Mexico Border Transportation Master Plan. Thank you. We are grateful that you invited us as COMCE Noreste to participate in the Binational Regional Steering Committee. Thank you very much. And well, we have some questions. I don't know, Armando, if you could read the questions. Armando, si nos puedes leer alguna pregunta que tengamos.
Yes, we have a question that what are the sources of investment for this master plan to take place from the US and maybe from the government of the US and maybe part of the government of Mexico, or how it will be arranged?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And in terms of the investments, the way the projects are funded, you have several entities. You have the federal government on both US and Mexico side, primarily invest in the border infrastructure, so the border crossings themselves. Then you have the highway corridors, you have the rail system. The highway corridors in the US, again, that's public sector. And that could be the federal government, the state government, the local agencies as well. And then you have the rail network that is privately owned. And some of the other elements, you saw what Port of Brownsville talked about. So there's different funding sources, and then there's also private sector. Some of the bridges are owned by the private sector, so they're also responsible for funding those. So it's different entities and different funding sources from federal, state, local, as well as private sector.
Okay, thank you. We have another question that says, no doubt borders matter. What is the or has been the perception or the impact, if any, of having the Mexican army involved in the operation of customs activity at the border?
I can answer that. In our case, as the state agency and as Texas, our main focus is on the transportation element. So we're just looking at how people are moving back and forth, the congestion, et cetera. But we don't look at security. That's handled by the federal government. So CBP normally works with the Mexican aduanas and SAT. We don't really get involved in the security and the inspection aspect of that. Each of the governments make those decisions, and we just partner with them to address the infrastructure elements of the border crossings and then the transportation connectivity elements of that.
Okay, thank you. Aquí una pregunta para Guillermo. Preguntan si está trabajando actualmente la ruta Brownsville-Tampa y con qué frecuencia.
La ruta Brownsville-Tampa por contenedores se suspendió temporalmente. Trabaja una vez a la semana, ¿sí? Pero ahorita está suspendido por algunos problemas técnicos. Esperamos pronto restablecerla. Se está trabajando en eso. Y nosotros les daremos, les comunicaremos y trataremos de darlo a conocer.
Ok. Gracias. Preguntan por aquí también si el puerto de Brownsville está certificado CityPath.
Bueno, el puerto de Brownsville no transporta, o sea, el CityPath es para el transporte terrestre, para los camiones, ¿sí?, que pasan por la aduana. Realmente el puerto no opera, ni siquiera opera el puerto, para eso hay empresas que operan dentro del puerto, pero ni esas empresas tienen transporte. Esos serían los transportistas, las líneas transportistas, tanto americanas como mexicanas, que operan aquí en el puerto y que transitan entre México y Estados Unidos, ¿no? Esa sería una pregunta. Probablemente esa pregunta va a estar bien en nuestro próximo webinar, y cabe hacer el comercial. Va a ser precisamente del transporte terrestre, que lo vamos a hacer en los próximos meses, y ahí va a haber transportistas a quienes se les puede preguntar. Pero sería, esa pregunta es para ellos.
Muy bien. Otra pregunta dice, creo que también es para el puerto, pero la hicieron en inglés. Dice, is the East Loop still set to be done by next month, end of September? Will it allow fulls for gas and diesel exports?
Lo que va a estar listo va a ser el conector, la salida sur del puerto, que es la primera etapa de el East Loop. Es the first step for that project. Va a poder transitar todo tipo de mercancías, ¿sí?, pero ahorita nada más va a ser, sales del puerto por el lado sur hacia la carretera 4 o Boca Chica, y de ahí ya te puedes ir y dar por las rutas normales al puente internacional Los Tomates. Sin embargo, todavía no va a ser la ruta de sobrepeso y para productos peligrosos. Entonces, esas seguirán usando la ruta que tenemos ahorita. El proyecto del East Loop Yo creo que está por arrancar. Estaban terminando las adquisiciones de los derechos de vía y algunos asuntos de la cuestión ambiental, ¿sí? Que el fondo ya se tienen casi todos los fondos y creemos que para el próximo año es muy probable que se arranque ese proyecto para ahora sí conectar desde el puerto hasta el puente internacional Zaragoza-Los Tomates.
Muy bien, gracias. Otra pregunta, ¿con quién me puedo poner en contacto para explorar la posibilidad de recibir carga líquida en el puerto de Brownsville?
Con un servidor, por ahí puse mis datos, y si no, en un ratito se los pasamos, ¿sí? Si me pasan el contacto, ustedes lo van a tener por ahí, o ustedes,
Claro.
entonces, por favor, mándenle mi contacto, que me hable, que me mande un email y con mucho gusto los atendemos.
Sí,
Muy
con
bien.
gusto me pasamos las presentaciones y ahí incluimos tu mail para que te puedan contactar. Igualmente, si desean contactarnos a nosotros, también por ahí les pasamos nuestros datos.
Claro que sí. Muy
¿Alguna
bien.
otra pregunta?
Dice una más, ¿existe algún plan para conectar con permiso de sobrepeso el puente de Hidalgo con el puerto de Brownsville? Con el puerto de Brownsville.
No se tiene. Se tiene permiso ya para conectar el puente Los Indios con el puerto de Brownsville. Sin embargo, todavía hay algunos detallitos que se están evaluando, sobre todo en la ruta que se va a seguir, pero en ese ya se tiene, legislado que se puede usar esa ruta de sobrepeso. Actualmente el puente de Los Indios, si no estoy mal, creo que ya puedes llevar carga de sobrepeso a otras partes, pero todavía no hasta el puerto.
Muy bien. Otra que nos preguntan por aquí, another question is, can you mention specific infrastructure projects along the border and the sequence of execution?
We have a lot of projects on the border master plan and along the border. Different projects, and I don't have that on top of my head, but we can definitely send that out. Pretty much in the RGV, I could give you an example. Far Border Crossing has several projects to do expansions, and and then the other ones do have several expansions or improvements and adding technology. So there's different projects. And then on the highway side, I know from TxDOT, we have a lot of project expansions on US 83 and other corridors within the RGV region, but also in Laredo, in El Paso, we have big projects on I-10, I-35 in Laredo. So throughout the border, we have a lot of projects going on, big and small, that one, TxDOT is facilitating, but then two, the federal agencies, I know the CBP, GSA, they're doing a lot of border crossing modernizations in some of the border crossings, rebuilding the infrastructure, whether it's the buildings, the inspection facilities, et cetera. So there's a lot of projects that we've identified in the border master plan. And you saw one of the slides Giacomo shared. We have, billions and billions of projects identified. The biggest thing I think I want to add is that not all the projects identified in the border master plan are fully funded. I think that's where the biggest challenge lies, is that we have a lot of projects, and we showed, the benefits of implementing, let's say, the border crossing projects, the economic benefits of implementing those. But specific projects, we do have that in the border master plan, and we can share it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Una pregunta más, dicen, en relación a la industria eólica, los blades o las aspas cada vez son más largas. ¿Se han considerado algún plan para revisar adecuaciones civiles a la ruta de Los Indios o al puerto, o algún loop como el que están haciendo a Los Tomates ya que actualmente las palas están de 82 metros de largo y al parecer seguirán creciendo.
Sí, al puente de los indios, al puente de los indios, libre comercio, ya se hicieron adecuaciones, no nada más por lo largo, sino también por lo ancho. Hay ciertos equipos, como los neceles y otros equipos, que a la hora de las casetas, por ejemplo, esa fue una adecuación, ¿sí? Pasaban con pues una holgura muy, muy pequeña, ya se ampliaron y se están haciendo algunos otros proyectos para eso. Dentro del puerto se están adecuando ciertos patios para que sean a uso exclusivo para las palas o las aspas, ¿sí? Tenemos, el año pasado fue un año para nosotros excelente. Creemos que va a ser muy difícil romper ese récord, pero principalmente por la cantidad de proyectos y material eólico que nos llegó. Este año seguimos teniendo especialmente palas y aspas de las dos plantas que fabrican las aspas aquí en Matamoros. Está llegando mucho, está saliendo no solo en camión, también en tren, lo estamos cargando en tren, se forman trenes unitarios y se van hacia el norte de Estados Unidos. Entonces creemos que eso seguirá, que ese mercado seguirá creciendo, que le llamamos, es la carga de proyectos. Y estamos adecuando todos los que estamos en las rutas, ¿sí? Tanto del lado mexicano como del lado americano, estamos adecuándonos para hacer cada día más competitivo y darles más facilidades, porque sí es bastante complicado el transporte de estos equipos tan grandes, ¿no? Entonces, sí estamos trabajando, sí estaremos haciendo mejoras a la infraestructura para que cada vez los equipos, entre más grandes sean, sean adecuados.
Bien, pues muchas gracias. Pues ya estamos sobre el tiempo y hemos agotado las preguntas que recibimos. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Giacomo, for being with us tonight. I think we went already through our questions. We look forward to continue working with you and I hope to see you soon in another webinar or in a personal meeting, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitations. We definitely enjoyed being here. And as always, like I said, we'll look forward to continue working with you all and certainly keep in touch, and we'll keep in touch. And any other follow-up questions, please let us know. And we'll be more than happy to answer that. And some of the questions that were asked, definitely we're looking forward to working with everybody to implement the recommendations in the border master plan. That's the only way we're going to be able to move people and goods effectively and safely through our border crossing. So thank you again, and good afternoon.
Thank you. And I just would like to read a message that we got. It's to Caroline, Guillermo, and the rest of participants. Says this has been by far the best border master plan project in all their history. Nicely done. Yeah, I think that's.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias a todos. Thank you very much,
Muchas gracias.
Caroline, Giacomo.
Yep.
We keep in touch and keep working together.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Muchas gracias a todos por su participación. Estaremos avisándoles oportunamente de los próximos webinars. Pues muy buenas tardes. Cualquier duda, cualquier comentario, estamos a sus órdenes. En el correo que les enviaremos con las presentaciones, les haremos llegar nuestros datos. Pues buenas tardes, que Dios los bendiga. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias a
Muchas
todos.
gracias.
Bye.